Hey guys, wanted to get the family dynamics slide or PowerPoint out to you guys. I will give you a heads up. I am in a room with my 7-year-old, my 13-year-old, and both my dogs, and one of them's a yo-yo. So, but you guys can't guess which one that is. All right, guys, well, let's get started. Maybe. I don't know why this never works. There. So, what is a family? A family is just two or more people that are joined by marriage, birth, or adoption. Um, they are living together. There's an emotional closeness. They share things and they support each other or the group. Um, they have a common set of values. A family is considered the basic unit of society. Um, each unit is their own, um, but these units make up society. Families share resources. They're close emotionally, like I said. So basically, what it is just two or more people that are living together, that are bonded together emotionally. It doesn't have to be um, birth family. It doesn't have to be, um, yeah, it can be any group of people that is considered family. Every family has their strengths and how they respond to their demands. Uh, we as nurses, we need to really watch for the family strengths and the support systems um, because they may need additional support. When they're going through a health crisis, maybe with one of the children or that poor family that just lost three kids, a set of twins, and another child because somebody was texting and driving and they ran into them when they're getting off the school bus. Um, so we look at how we're going to take care of the family. Um, the one that I usually use in here is when Bailey was in the hospital. I was crazy. I'm not gonna lie. I was certifiably nuts. But we had gone 6 weeks with no answers, and um, they continued just to tell me the same thing over and over, and they wouldn't listen. Um, so they really probably didn't see many of my strengths. They just saw that I was nuts. But when the family's going through something like that, um, any type of like health crisis, we just need to take a step back and understand that they're under a lot of stress. Um, Family strengths. These are the relationships, the support systems, what a family does, and the resources they use um, when they're having stressors. They may have, like when Bailey was going through all that, I used my nursing background to try and figure things out, or different experiences or finances. Um, Maybe some family strengths are that they are really good at communicating. Maybe they're really good at putting their heads together and problem solving. Um, Maybe a elderly parent is in the nurse or is in the hospital and she needs to come home, but she can no longer be home by herself. So maybe they're working together to problem solve and find a way that she can come home, spend time with her family, and have someone there at all times. Um, or maybe they're just emotionally stable. Maybe they're just um, very accepting and very understanding. Family resilience. This is just a bounce back. If you look at this picture here, you see that maybe the wind is blowing and that tree's bending, but it's got such good roots that it just bounces right back. This is true with anytime there becomes an issue with a family. They kind of they may bend with the issue, but they'll come right back. So, what are some family tasks? The biggest family task there is to provide food, shelter, health care for their members. That's the physical maintenance part. Um, they're also responsible for socializing their members, whether it's a parent taking a child out and about and just showing them the community, or maybe they're getting them involved in community activities, T-ball, the library, just different things. Allocation of resources. This is when they're setting priorities. Maybe kids are in high school and they want to do jazz band, and they want to do all their AP classes in school, and then they want to be in football, and then they want to be in the musical. Sometimes that gets just to be too much for these kids. So as a parent or as a family, it's much better to set a priority and say, okay, well, we need to pick one or two so that you're not in school from 6 in the morning till 11 at night and then come home to do homework. So they really kind of use their resources and set priorities. All right, so now we're getting into types of families. The nuclear or the traditional family, there's kids living with the biological mother and the biological father. Notice I said and. It's not one or the other. It is kids living with their biological mom and biological dad. There's no other people that live in the house. It's just mom, dad, and kids. Dual career or dual earner families. The parents or both the husband and wife, they don't have to be married, or they don't have to have children, but they're both employed outside the home. So, example, mom is working at a daycare, dad's working at a bank, and they're just bringing home two incomes. Extended family or an intergenerational family. Parents or siblings or other relatives might be living with this group. Could be one parent, could be both parents, could be grandparents. I had a family that I took care of when I was doing home care, and it was okay. So the mom and the dad, and they had 6 kids. The mom's mom lived there to help take care of the kids, and the 2 of the 6 kids were over the age of 18, so they both lived there with their significant other. And then those two family members that were over 18 that lived there with their significant others also had a child. So you can see where it keeps going and going and going. And they shared the responsibilities of raising that family. Child-free families. These are a husband and wife that choose not to have children, or they're infertile and they can't have a baby. So it's just husband and wife living together. Like this picture here, they may have a puppy, but they just have no children. Single parent family. These are the families that bust their butts. I have so much respect for single parents. I was that one time. But these moms or these dads, they might be widowed, they might be separated, going through divorce, they might be divorced, or maybe the other person just left and wasn't about to handle a family, raising a family. There's a lot of stressors on these guys. Child care. Maybe they don't have a family member living close by that could babysit, like a mom or a retired grandma. Financial concerns. they really have their roles overlapped or overloaded because they're mom and dad. There's a huge risk for these single parents becoming really fatigued, and they can be socially isolated. Um, I know when I was before I was remarried, when I was going to school, I had 3 kids, and I was going to school for my associates, and I worked. Did I have 3 jobs? I think I had 3 jobs. I went to school full time. Um, and the little bit of time that I had between work and school, I chose to spend with my kids, and I really had no outside. I didn't really talk to anyone because I didn't have time, and my only extra time was spent with the kids. So I've been really kind of socially isolated for a while. That's okay. The next type of family is a single mother by choice. This is the mom's unmarried. She has chosen to conceive or adopt without a partner. I have a friend who adopted 2 Asian girls. She actually went over to Asia and came home with them. But she has never wanted to be married. She has um, done a wonderful job raising these 2 girls. They are beautiful inside and out, and she did it all on her own. She would come to work, and sometimes she would have to take the girls with her, and they would just sit in the back office and color while she went and saw her patients. Um, yeah, it's really kind of a neat situation. Another type of family is the blended family, the reconstituted nuclear, or a step family. Um, this is basically his, hers, and ours type thing. Um, it's the mom and the dad, or a mom over here and a dad over there, not technically the mom and dad, but they live together and they each have kids. A binuclear family, um, the family is after divorce, and the mom and dad that just were divorced are both remarried, and mom and dad of the kids, um, the mom from this family and the dad from this family, I'm trying to figure out how to explain it without you guys seeing me, are actually co-parenting. Like this picture down here on the right, I saw that and I was like, wow, I'm impressed. This guy actually, this picture is a picture he took, and I found it on the internet. It's nothing spectacular, but he took this picture one night when he went over for supper at his ex-wife and her new husband's house, and the 3 older kids are the ex-husband and ex-wife's, and the 2 younger kids are the ex-wife and her new husband's kids. And they actually had supper together, which I think is really kind of cool. You don't see that very often. I do have a friend too that he will date, but the first thing he says is, "Me and my ex-wife are very close, and we do a lot together, so that our kids can do stuff with both of us. Just because we're not together doesn't mean that they can't see mom and dad being civil to each other." And that's how he starts out his, hey, do you want to go out on a date type thing. It sounds kind of crazy, but he's very, very good to his kids, and it's kind of cool to see. Heterosexual cohabiting family, um, just heterosexual people with or without kids that are living together. Gay lesbian families, it's a homosexual couple. They may have children, they may not have children. This includes the single parent families. Um, yeah, it's just mom and the kids, or dad and the kids. Adolescent families, teen parents, they're not generally prepared to be mom and dad, but they will get there, I guess. The picture down here on the left, I really thought was really kind of cool. Um, these kids must have had that little girl when they were freshmen, sophomores at the latest. And here they are in graduation with her. Foster families, basically that's obviously what you guys have heard, a temporary family for a child that can't live with their mom or dad, and they're placed by the court. Cohabiting or communal families, these are unrelated people or families that live in the same spot, um, whether to see if a relationship's going to work, or to share bills, or even just for companionship. Single adults living alone, just young adults, old adults, um, that live alone independently because they choose to, they're divorced, or their significant other or husband or wife or spouse or partner has passed away. All right, let me get a drink here real quick. All right, so Duvall's family framework. Duvall says that a typical nuclear family goes through these 8 stages from the time they um, are married till the time they pass away. Their stages are based on the age of the oldest child. So, stage 1, obviously they don't have any kids yet. But my dog, lay down. Sit, sit. Thank you. So, stage 1. These folks, they're newly married. They're maybe beginning a family. They're establishing their home. Um, and they're starting to plan for kids. So, stage 2 is the childbearing family. Their oldest child is 30 months old. Um, so our nursing role is just to um, educate the parents, make sure that they're taking their babies in for well baby checks. Is a big topic for them. So stage 3 of the Duvall, their oldest child is 2.5 to 6 years old. It's a very busy family. Maybe not with like school and sports and stuff like that, but oh, what?
If we were in Arizona, guess what?
What?
We would have to look out for a lost white puppy.
Oh, okay.
They lost their puppy.
Oh, okay. Well, guess what? I'm doing a lecture. I gotta go. Shh. Sorry about that. So back to stage 3 of the Duvall Family Network is the preschool kids. Oldest child, like I said, is 2.5 to 6 years old. They're very busy families. You can see they may have 3 boys under the age of 6. The biggest thing for nursing is that we need to make sure that families getting enough growth and development resources, and we really need to teach them that safety is a high priority for this group. Remember, yeah, it was last week where we went through all the preschool age and their safety needs. All right, so then stage 4 goes into school age kids. Oldest child is anywhere from 6 to 13. And biggest nursing issues are immunizations, making sure they're all up to date, making sure these kids are getting adequate dental care, of course, safety, and making sure they're getting an appropriate school experience. So stage 5, these are the families where their oldest kid is 13 to 20 years old. Can be a very trying stage. Anybody who's had teenagers can totally understand that. And they need to start loosening ties. I always say that God made the teenage years so terrible so that when they leave home to go to college or to grow up, that it's not as hard. Sounds terrible, I know, but teenage years can be difficult, and parents need to learn how to let their kids go off to college or off to a new city. So on to stage 6. This is the family that all their kids are leaving home. They still look to mom and dad for directions. They can be guideposts. But these kids have their own households, whether they are, married and have kids, but they have their own houses. They have their own living, but they still, use parents as advice givers. So stage 7, this is when all of the kids are out. So it's kind of the empty nest. And it goes through when mom and dad retire. They are returning to this 2-parent unit, so they're just mom and dad at home now, which gives them more time for travel, more times for hobbies, more time to do things with each other. And the empty nest syndrome will gradually decline. They'll get used to living with just them two again. Maybe they've never had it. Maybe they had kids right away. But the empty nest syndrome will slowly decline, and they'll actually enjoy their time alone. So then stage 8, this is when mom and dad are retired from retirement till the time they die. Alright, so that was kind of a, yeah. If you have any questions on any of that, let me know. Systems theory is basically what they feel a family is always interacting. They're influenced by other systems. Like I was saying before, it's kind of the protection is what families do. So if this family, what can I use as an example? Okay, when we were working on the haunted house, we were out there 12-hour days trying to get it ready, trying to get it built. And a lot of those days, Bailey was out there helping me. And then she would come home and she would do her homework, and then she would clean her room. Thank goodness she's not really involved in any after-school activities, because she would have really, there was a couple weeks in there that she overdid it and got burnt out. She was just plain exhausted. So what families do in this systems theory is they set boundaries so that other systems aren't causing the family members to be overdoing stuff or becoming exhausted. So when I realized that Bailey was doing too much with the haunted house, with her homework, with cleaning her room, kind of stepped in and put a kibosh to some of these other systems, or maybe it's like confirmation or any type of sports. The parent would just step in and be the boundary to protect that kid. Just let me know if that doesn't make sense. Alright, the structural functional theory for families. The structural portion of it, it's just family memberships and relationships. whether it's mother and daughter, brother and sister, spouse, partner, um, dad, son, however. And then the functional part of it is just the family relationships and the whole family system and other systems. With its biggest thing is the relationships. All right, I'm kind of flying through this one. I'm sorry. Family assessment. We all do this when we are, whether we are caring for a kid on the pediatric unit or whether we're caring for an elderly person who may be going to a nursing home or anywhere, really, once we get out on practice. So what it really is, it's just a collection of data and assessment looking at the patient's family type, the support system they have at home, their social-cultural background, and any needs. Maybe these are their needs, but these are how they can meet them. Maybe they can't meet them, so maybe these are their needs, and these are how do we need to figure out how they can meet their needs. So the family assessment actually includes information about each family member, their family type, the roles of each person in the family, any cultural practices, any religious practices, their support network, and communication practices. For an example, when we would deliver Amish babies, we would always have to keep in mind, their preferences, their practices. So some of them would not accept any blood if they needed it. But so they had the baby and they generally left. I think our quickest turnaround from the time of admission to the time of discharge was 4 hours. It was a drive-by birthing, I swear. But what happens is, if they happen to have their baby in the hospital, which is kind of rare unless there might be issues, then they come to the hospital. And they kind of triage it depending on, where they're going to go. But anyways, so they come in, they have their baby, and when they get home, they're actually met by their family and whoever's going to help care for them. They generally have at least one person that is there day in, day out. But when they pull up, the family comes out, they have a chair, mom gets in the chair, somebody else takes baby, they go inside, and they carry mom in this chair up to her bed, and she goes on bed rest. Then the person that is there helping them care for the baby takes care of the baby, except for maybe when the baby needs to nurse. But this is all just how their culture works, how their religious practices work. They may have a different support network. I know one baby I delivered, their helper person their helper person was just another member from the community that they knew. It was not a relation. They were not related, and they were just coming to help them. In the family assessment, we're going to want to determine family structure, which will really kind of give us insight to the needs and support systems that they have. Kind of want to, the family assessment will help determine what level of functioning they're at. It will help find the family strengths, the family weaknesses. It'll help determine the cultural influences. Just trying to think if there's anything. So when they do the care plan or the plan of care, we as nurses, like I said before, we need to focus on their strengths and what they can do, and then figure out what they need. So maybe some of their strengths will spill over into what they need, and they can, they've got good resources for that. So genogram, it's just basically a map about family structure, and sometimes health history is included, but it's 3 generations, and it kind of shows how the family is made up. It's kind of like a family tree. A family eco map. This is more of like the relationships and the social networks of a family. It's kind of a concept map. It kind of draws out where these families see their support system. Who's here, who's there, what's my stressor, and who's here to help me with that. So it's just more of like um, the relationship between um, the family and the social networks and their I cannot think of the word I want, but never mind. You get the idea. The Calgary assessment is another family assessment. It's just this one, it really focuses on the family's strengths and the weaknesses. It's divided up into 3 categories: the structural, the developmental, and the functional. And it really kind of helps to figure out what are they strong at, what are they weak at, where do they need some more help. There might be a home assessment. It's the home observation for measurement of the environment. I put an example up. That's what that picture is. Just a nurse may come in, assess the home environment. I've done a few of these, but it was more for like an insurance. So I went in and I did the assessment on the person, and then I went through and saw, do they have rugs laying on the floor? Do they have this? Do they have that? Really, it's not too bad, usually. Hopefully, it's not anyway. Alright, so cultural influences. This is, try and sum this all up. It's what a person believes or their behaviors that affect everything they do. It might be how they identify themselves, the language they speak, their customs, their beliefs, their values, all tie into their ethnicity, their race, their religious preference, social groups, or even geographic groups. So it's just kind of their morals, what they believe in. Cultures, they share values and beliefs. The behaviors of this culture will reflect what they believe in. The culture is learned and dynamic. A kiddo starts to learn about his or her culture starting at birth. They learn about it all the way growing up. It's kind of just part of their day-to-day life. Culture is actually brought into life. They symbolize the culture. My words are not coming tonight. Whether it might be language, the way they dress, the type of music they listen to, sometimes nonverbal expressions. But for example, if you look at the Native American culture, you can definitely determine that when they are in their powwow celebration outfit, that's not the words I want either, but when they're preparing for the powwow, you can actually look at them and say, oh, yep, they're Native American, just based on what they're wearing. You can look at somebody when they're speaking Hmong. Oh, yep, that's their culture. So you can really kind of tell, just they don't have to come straight out and say, yep, I'm Native American. There's just different things that you can see that will tell you, yep, they're Native American. Race. This is just a group of people that share biological similarities. You guys know what race is. Examples are white, which Caucasian, black, the African American, Hispanics, Native Americans, Asians, so on and so forth. But you guys know what that is. Ethnicity is basically how they identify themselves based on their social and their cultural heritage. Just different types of um, the different groups. I just have like the Hmong group or the Jews or the Irish Americans. Um, Stereotyping, we all know what this means. Basically, that we're assuming that all members of the group, whether it's a racial group or an ethnicity group or whatever group it may be, but all members have the same characteristics. Um, I had a friend, Sarah, who was um, beat up pretty bad by the Hmong population. Um, and it took me, I'm not going to lie, I'm just being honest here. And it took me a while to get over the fact that not everybody was going to attack me that was Hmong. And now my daughter is dating, um, her boyfriend is of the Hmong um, ethnicity. So um, I didn't mean to stereotype, but because of what I had been through, well, I guess I was kind of there, but um, it's just basically thinking that everybody from this group is the same as maybe a bad person. Maybe they're even stereotyping into the good person. But everyone has their good traits, everyone has their bad traits. Acculturation. This is a process of modifying, say, my culture to fit into a new culture. Um, so if I would move to, where should I move to? France. And maybe their life is a little bit less hectic than ours. Um, and it's just me kind of going from being an obvious American to, picking up some of the characteristics of the French. Assimilation, that's kind of the same thing. Um, but that's basically you're adopting different traits of your new culture into your own practice. You're making it your own, your daily routine. Where am I? Okay, so more cultural influences, family roles and structure. You look at these, and this is going to be part of your assignment, that family dynamics worksheet. But there's head of household, there's the decision maker or the problem solver, different gender roles, uh, elderly, the extended family role, and then there's the dominance. Who's more dominant, the patriarch, the matriarch, or the egalitarian? Um, so when you guys do watch your show, here's where you find the family roles. Different health beliefs or practices are going to affect or be the cultural influences. Kind of depends on what the person believes. There's the magical religious belief, where people believe that health and illness are determined by a higher power or the supernatural. So they really get their comfort by doing their healing rituals or by praying. Just kind of depends on what they believe. There's people that the scientific or the biomedical health paradigm, basically it's physiology, all illness and everything else. Is illnesses are caused by viruses, bacteria, or damage. This is basically just the Western medicine beliefs. Holistic health beliefs. Natural balance is disturbed. The yin and the yang, or the hot and the cold. Um, and when this body is not in the natural balance and where it's supposed to be, that's when the infection can enter the body. We talked about last week about hot illnesses are treated with cold food, cold illnesses are treated with hot foods. Just kind of the cultural aspect of it where it comes in. All right, family-centered care. I think we're getting close to the end, guys. This really didn't take that long. So when we do family-centered care, we're not just taking care of the child. We are taking care of the entire family. We take in the family's values, the family's thoughts, family's needs, and just kind of make everything about all of them rather than just the patient. This can also be true. This can be true in anywhere. But another example that I thought of was when you have a patient who is passing away in the end stages of life, that patient is not your only patient. Everyone sitting in that room is also your patient. You go in, you do your assessment on your patient, but then you look at everyone else and say, can I get you a cup of coffee? Can I get you some water? And does anybody need anything to eat? I know you guys have been here for a while, or maybe you guys need a break. I'll sit with her, while you guys are gone if you want to go outside and just take a breather or whatever you want to do, but I wouldn't mind sitting here and holding her hand while you guys took a break. So it's just this whole thing where you're not just taking care of your patient, you're taking care of their family too. I've had cases where I knew the family pretty well. So when it came in, because I worked quite a bit in long-term care. But certain times would come along and I'd go and I'd check on my patient and their family member, and the person's death was coming closer. And so I would go down and double check and make sure that my family members were taking their medicine, because I knew they had to take, I don't even remember what meds it was, but I remember going in and saying, did you take your meds yet? Well, you're not doing anything until you take your meds. So just remember to take care of the entire family. All right, healthcare practitioners. This is different for a lot of different cultures. For example, sorry, the Mexican Americans, they have a curandero or a curandera. This is just a male or female healer. Puerto Ricans have espiritistas, and I know I'm slaughtering these words, I apologize. But they communicate with spirits for physical or emotional development. Or they also have a Salvador, where they're using manipulation and massage to get that balance back. African Americans kind of combine the Western medicine and their traditional beliefs. Native Americans have a shaman. It's a man or a woman. They can actually enter the altered sense of consciousness to use the reality to acquire knowledge and help other people. I actually had a friend who was a shaman in the Native American population, and she was amazing. She was probably 100 years old, but to see her in action was really pretty neat. Religion and spirituality. This doesn't just have to be a Christian or Catholic or a Lutheran or a Methodist. It is just basically their experience and their how they view their relationship with the higher power. Doesn't have to be God. It can be whatever they believe it to be. It can be what is that other religion that's out there that I heard about? The spaghetti monster? I think that's what it's called. But it doesn't matter what they believe in. It's just kind of their own experience, their own thoughts. So, back to family functions. They need to make sure that their members are developing a sense of family purpose. They add and they socialize new members, whether it's a new baby or maybe an adoption or maybe a marriage, but they socialize their members. And then they make sure that all members are taken care of and services and resources are distributed to them. So, what are some nursing diagnoses for families? Might be caregiver role strain. This is maybe where a elderly gentleman is caring for his elderly wife, and maybe she's got dementia. So he's been up for the past how many hours? And before that, he only slept 2 hours. So that's that's one of the main ones that you will see. Disabled family coping. Maybe they're not able to cope with whatever's going on with their child. Dysfunctional family processes. They're not able to grieve. They're not able to actually process what they need to do. Impaired home maintenance. Impaired parenting. Interrupted family processes. Readiness for enhanced family coping. So yeah, anytime that the natural family process is combobbled, there's some type of nursing diagnosis. So, family and health crisis. When one family member is ill, it affects the entire family. Roles and responsibilities change. So whatever the ill family member was responsible for, somebody now has to pick up. And if it's a child in the hospital, maybe one parent is gone. And so another parent and the other kids are having to chip in to cover up what mom did. So because mom's at the hospital these 2 days, dad will go the next 2 days. So then somebody's got to take care of dad's responsibilities. These family members are going to have anxiety because of their ill family member. They're going to have more tasks to do. They're going to have less time to complete them. So they're going to be pretty anxious, pretty stressed out. And it's considered a strength to ask others for help during this time. Don't consider it a weakness. Speaking as a parent to a kid who went through a hellacious experience, it was a terrible time. Like I said, I was crazy. I went from having a daughter who was scoring 9.5, 9.7 in sorry, in gymnastics, on the bars, on the beam. I mean, she was the best all-around gymnast. We got her appendix out, and within 2 weeks, she was a vegetable. She couldn't even take herself to the bathroom. So you can kind of see where it was totally, oh my gosh, what the hell's happening? So when we would go to the doctor and they wouldn't have any answers, yeah, we were in a crisis, and I was in mama bear mode, and it was not good. But it was because I was so stressed out trying to figure out what's going on with my daughter, trying to keep everything running at home, trying to work. They did give me time off, but I still had to go to work to make sure the bills were paid. I couldn't take, a month off. I didn't have that option. But so just keep your family when they're going through an issue, where they have a family member in the hospital. Just give them a little bit of extra TLC, because being there, having been there myself, really opened your eyes. And I think that's it. That is. Alright, so I will do the exam review. I will probably record tomorrow. But I think, yeah. And I still want to do the review session on Wednesday. I will come up and we can do the review. That'll be in C307. But I will post an announcement for that too. But if you guys have any questions, just get a hold of me. I feel like we kind of flew through it, but it's okay. Make sure you know your family types. Make sure you know the Duval stages. Yeah, just review all that. What is a family? Alright, guys. I will see you later. Have a good night.